And we're live.
Live and direct. Hello, Steve. How are you tonight?
Podfeet. I'm doing great. How are you?
Does anybody know where live and direct comes from? Can anybody remember? Do you remember, Steve?
I do, but I'm not supposed to tell the punchline anymore. So I guess I can't
anymore.
say.
You were never supposed to tell the punchline. Does anybody know what that's from? I'll give the audience a couple of seconds to come up with it. That's the case for the iPhone 16 Pro from Beats. It's a very pretty purple.
It's a Beats case.
Kind of like a little darker, more muted than I expected, but there's the sapphire crystal button. Steve, do you have your Spigen case handy?
Here's the case from Spigen.
Now show them the cutout for the camera control. My one fear was that cutouts wouldn't work. It works great.
It actually goes all the way. They just open it up all the way to the actual control surface with nothing over it.
Yeah. But, so is the ledge gone like here? Is it on the top?
The ledge is on the front, but not on the back. So it's on the face. There's a lip here, but there's no lip here. Okay. It's more exposed here.
Sandy just happened to have gotten Mike the Spigen case for his 16 also.
Good. Now it's a great case in terms of protecting the phone, but it kind of mutes the MagSafe feature. It's so thick that it doesn't stick quite as well to the MagSafe connectors.
Didn't you have a Spigen before that?
This is thicker. It's a slightly different. It's a variation. It's got a little more heft to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the 15, it didn't.
I like the Apple silicone cases, but I had to swear off them. They don't last. They last like 6 months, and they just start peeling on the corners and stuff.
He doesn't use MagSafe. Okay. Is it on a 16? Is it an older phone?
No, it's brand new. It's a 16.
Okay.
John, you like the Spigens? Yeah, they're nice, but no magnets. I mean, you said you can't even stick it on the Belkin charger, MagSafe charger. It falls off.
I can, but I have to be very precise with it. And even when it's there, it's barely stuck. If I knock it, it falls off. So unlike, you get a MagSafe connected to one of these things, you can't. It's hard to pull off sometimes.
I wonder if Spigen makes the same thing, but with MagSafe.
I'm going to look at that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time to start the show. What do you think?
I think it is.
All right. I did a test recording and it was perfect.
Wait.
Oh, didn't do roll call.
We
are just a mess.
Yes.
We have our small but mighty audience. We have Bruce from Alabama, Frank from Japan, Jill from the North Woods. We've got Sandy from Las Vegas, and Zoe coming in from England, and Steve right down the hall.
And John is here too. He's just not showing in the...
Oh, yeah. Where'd he go? John. Yeah. And John also from Alabama, right? We're covering Alabama all over the place.
Yeah. Alabama's well represented.
Yeah. All right. We try.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, and this is show number 1011. Well, everybody else is talking about all the new gadgets and toys, so we're not going to do that here. We're going to do a normal NosillaCast. Did you see my response about what? What was I supposed to respond to? Spigen? I don't know what John's talking about. I don't understand him very often anyway. All right. Here we go. I got to talk slowly. Just, are you seeing my messages now? Yeah, well, I am seeing your messages. You weren't in the sidebar, so I never know who to say from on the right sidebar. If you came in through the web or something, or through the bot, then I don't know that you're here.
Kevin has joined us.
Oh, good, because we're going to talk about toilets today, Kevin, and I really knew you'd want to be here.
As I said, it's right up Kevin's alley.
Right down his alley?
The jokes begin.
Here we go. This week, I had the pleasure of being on the Daily Tech News Show, which was hosted this time by Sarah Lane and Rob Dunwood. As the guest, I got to pick the topic, so I decided to walk through just a couple of my Tech on Travel, the Africa edition, things that I told you about. You heard it during the most recent NosillaCast, of course. Well, on the show, I talked about my diagram, and Rob called me an engineer, which he thought was an insult, but of course I take as a compliment. Then I told him about Steve's image-stabilized binoculars, and I wound up the piece by talking about how I do backups. I explained that you can connect a backup SSD to an iPhone or an Android phone via USB-C and directly back them up without actually carrying a laptop. That was what I was prepared to chat about, but we ended up talking a little bit about eSIMs. It might have been in the after show that they call Good Day Internet, but I mentioned that we each bought eSIMs from GigSky for $48 for 30 days for 10 gigabytes. I might have said $40 during the show, but it was really $48. I said we didn't use our AT&T lines because you can buy a kidney for what they charge. During the show, I said it was $20 per day per phone line. Well, alert listener Jess wrote into DTNS and explained that my information was out of date. AT&T no longer charges $20 per day, it's only $12 per day. And if you have a second person traveling who's on your plan, the second line is only $6 per day. So for two phones, it would be $18 a day, not $40 a day like I said. But even better, the max they charge you for is 10 days within a billing cycle. That is a huge reduction in cost from what they used to charge. Well, I went to the AT&T website to verify the information myself, trust but verify, and I found that Jess was absolutely right. So then I thought maybe I need to run a little math. We bought two eSIMs from GigSky for $48 each, like I said. This got us 10 gigabytes for 30 days. As our trip was 23 days long, this worked pretty well. 10 gigabytes was plenty of data for Steve, but I ran out a day or two before the end of our trip. I suspect it was uploading all of my raw photos or the fact that I just realized I forgot to turn off Backblaze before we left. So remember I went out of my way to put all of the raw photos, just every single photo I took, I put them in folders that would not sync? I forgot about Backblaze. Well, in any case, the GigSky plans let us tether, so I was able to just mooch off of Steve's phone for the last couple of days. So anyway, with GigSky, our total cost was two phones at $48 each or $96 on GigSky. Now, on AT&T, the cost is $12 per day for me, $6 per day for Steve, with a max of 10 days charge per billing cycle. That would be $180 for the two of us for 10 days. Well, that's nearly double the cost of GigSky, even with this better deal. But it might be worth it to have our real phone number and unlimited data like we have at home. However, there's a catch in the AT&T plan. There's always a catch. Remember, Jess explained they only charge for 10 days per billing cycle. Well, I looked up our billing cycle, and it's from the 22nd of the month to the 21st of the next month. We left on August 10th, and we returned on September 2nd. That means we spanned 10 days not into one, but two billing cycles. So our total cost with AT&T would have been 20 days times $12 plus $6, which is $360. $360 for AT&T is 3.75 times as much as we paid for GigSky. After that analysis, I think for this particular trip, it was far better to use GigSky than AT&T. However, if we go on a shorter trip that maybe doesn't span two billing periods, AT&T has an offering that's no longer as heinous. It's annoying that you have to be wary of your billing cycle before making the right financial decision for you, but it's worth doing the math before deciding. Now, one more thing. People had told me that if you have T-Mobile, you can use your phone in other countries without paying extra. I did a little bit of digging on that on the T-Mobile website, and it's not quite as rosy as that sounds. With their higher price plans like Go 5G Next and Plus, you get up to 5 gigabytes of high-speed data, and they don't define what high speed means, but then after that, it drops down to 256 kilobits per second. On their lower price plans, like their Go 5G plan, the only data you get is 256 kilobits per second. Now, they have a third tier of pricing they label Other T-Mobile Plans. They don't specify the speeds on that one at all, and for that third tier, there's a fee. It's 1 cent per megabyte. Well, the 10 gigabytes I used on GigSky for $48 would have cost me $100 on T-Mobile other plans. I'm really glad that Jess wrote in to tell me that I was behind the times on the latest fees from the bigger carriers. I'm equally glad to know that I didn't needlessly light dollar bills on fire going with the eSIMs we bought. The lesson I learned was that in preparation for travel, I should keep an eye on my local service provider just in case they have a good deal and it works with my particular trip. So anyway, the main point of the story was you should go check out Daily Tech News Show 4858 entitled Travel Flowcharts, where Rob makes fun of me for being an engineer, and you can find that at dailytechnewsshow.com and, of course, in your podcatcher of choice. I always prefer billing cycles that don't span 2 payments. You mean like 2 months?
I noticed one small typo that I'll fix.
Was it where I only had one T in AT&T?
No, Killa PBS, not BPS.
Okay.
Did you have another
correction?
correction?
You're right. No, go ahead and fix that. But also look, one of the times I said AT&T. Oh, the paragraph.
I see it.
Yeah. AT and.
Yeah.
Leaves you out in the open. All right. Did I manage to milk that longer than it said? I started slowing down. Slowing down.
I think I know why you said PBS.
Yeah, maybe.
Little unintended.
Yeah.
Okay, fixed.
All right. It's time for toilet talk.
Ooh, boy. We're going to get down and dirty.
Where did you travel to, John says? Were you here last week? We talked a lot about it. We went to Africa for 23 days.
The countries of South Africa, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. Actually, a fourth
and
one. And
Zambia.
Zambia thrown in for a day to sit on the ledge of Victoria Falls. And when I say sit on the ledge, I mean literally on the
really
ledge.
Out on the edge. Were you really? You really weren't here last week, John? Because that's worth Steve repeating that photo. If you want to put it in again, Steve.
Yeah, I'll go find it.
Did you? Okay, here we go. Didn't look like it moved. At CES in January, frog my throat. At CES in January, Steve and I interviewed James Ambergy from Bemis about their smart bidets. I'm excited to tell you that they were kind enough to send me one to review. All right, everybody go ahead, make all your potty jokes to yourself right now, and then go read the toddler book, Everybody Poops by Taro Gomi. Okay, you got it all out of your system? You sure? You okay? You can listen now? All right. Let's get started by defining some terminology. A bidet can either be an entire toilet or just a seat replacement for your existing toilet. The function of a bidet performs, not forms. The function a bidet performs is to provide warm water for cleaning yourself and optionally other functions like a heated seat or a blow dryer. Bemis sent me the BioBidet BB1200, which is a $399 seat replacement. You can check out the entire Bemis catalog of BioBidet seats at the link in the show notes, and you can find them there ranging anywhere from $99 to $699. So the BioBidet BB1200 is kind of in the middle range. Now, one important note before you consider purchasing certain kinds of bidets. Since bidets pump water around the heat, I'm ad-libbing because I need to make a correction to this because Sandy says she's got a bidet that doesn't require power. And one important note, I need to edit that. Now, one important note before you consider purchasing certain kinds of bidets like the one I'm going to talk about. Since bidets pump water around and heat the water, there's often a very strict requirement that you have a power source near the toilet. If you don't, you simply can't have this kind of bidet. Now, the first question you might ask yourself before considering the product I'm about to describe should be, do you want your toilet to be smart? Let's keep that question in mind as I go through the features of the BioBidet from Bemis, and maybe we'll be able to answer the question at the end. Installation of the BB1200 was relatively easy compared to pretty much any other plumbing project. Toilet seats are connected to the toilet by 2 screws, usually with some kind of cover to cover up the screw heads to make them look nice. The first installation step is to remove the 2 screws to remove the old seat. The BioBidet comes with replacement screws and replacement rubber gaskets that help hold the screws tightly into the holes. While toilet seat sizes appear to vary by country, at least between the US and Europe, I found indications that the mounting screws are the same distance apart. Be sure to check all of the specifications before buying a toilet seat of any kind to ensure it'll fit your existing toilet. Before putting the screws into place for the new BioBidet seat, there's a plastic catch plate designed to help you position the seat forward and aft to get good alignment. You'll now need to turn off the water supply at your toilet, which is something you need to know how to do in case of emergency anyway. Now, a few years ago, we had a plumber change out our shutoff valves from the old ones. You know, the ones where you turn a round handle like 28 times to turn off the water? Our new ones are what they call a quarter-turn shutoff. I'm telling you, it's life-changing when something goes wrong. Well, next, you're advised to flush the toilet. You do that to drain it as you're going to be rerouting the water supply. The BioBidet comes with a T-valve, which allows your single water supply to go through the normal supply line to the toilet, but also to go through the included hose to the bidet for the squirting of the water. I'm not going to go into all of the details of this part of the project, but I did want to mention that all of the attachments of the hoses were done with plastic threaded nuts that were very easy to turn by hand. As easy as turning things by hand could be when, you're lying on the floor with your head under a toilet. The instructions were clear with nice little drawings illustrating every step, so we got it done in, something like a half an hour. I just realized there are... Oh no, never mind. I think I do have the right one. Save. I don't know that they're called ball valves. They call them quarter turns. All right, now for the real fun, learning about how to control this smart bidet. Let's say for the moment that you want the delight of a bidet, but you don't actually want to use any of the smart features. The BB1200 comes with a side control panel that gives you very limited bidet controls. There's a button for rear wash and a power/stop button. For a lot of people, this might be just enough control. It might be handy for those without sight to have a quick way to get cleaned up. This is also where you'll find the sensor for the remote, and it has a red LED that lights up if you have the seat heater enabled. If you're happy with this level of control, you might be able to consider one of the less expensive bidets from Bemis or other manufacturers, but let's keep going to learn about the more features before you decide. Let's say you want the next level up in control of your bidet. The BB1200 comes with a physical remote control that's 6 inches long by 2.5 inches wide and 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's pretty big in one hand. The remote has no physical buttons, but rather has regions of the remote that provide haptic feedback when you simply rest your finger on an area. Note that you can only use the remote control while seated with bare thighs on the seat. Seems like a good idea since otherwise the seat might squirt water all over the room. Well, the grid of 4 buttons that take up the top half of the remote are for rear wash, turbo wash, which, that sounds fun, front wash, and dry. In the center of these 4 square areas is a red square which allows you to instantly stop whatever function the bidet is currently providing. There are 5 red LEDs that change from 1 to 5, and these LEDs do a lot of work. They're engaged in a lot of the different operations. They apply to 4 different controls. They indicate the pressure level of the dryer or the washer, depending on which one of those is chosen. They also indicate the water or seat temperature and the nozzle position. Now, you'd think nozzle position was already defined by front versus rear wash, but you can fine-tune it to your liking. Oh, and get this. If you double press the wash level you desire, the nozzle moves forward and aft with a pulsing motion. As you can see, the BioBidet BB1200 has a lot of controls for your comfort. Of the options on this device, the dryer is probably the weakest of them. Think of those hand dryers that you see in a public restroom before they started putting in the good ones from Dyson, so they're super weak. Now, cut the air volume of those maybe in half. That's what you're going to get from the BB1200. Now, unless your goal is to get some peace and quiet sitting in the bathroom for as long as possible, you're going to want to just dry yourself off from the water wash you just enjoyed. There's a button to clean the nozzle, but the user guide says that it automatically cleans the nozzle before each use. On occasion, I've also witnessed the nozzle coming in and out, going through an apparent cleaning cycle for like a good minute long. Perhaps a manual nozzle cleaning is just for that extra feeling of control. The instructions say the manual cleaning will rinse the nozzle 10 times. Now, I mentioned the control for seat temperature earlier. If you engage the heated seat with this control, it will always be heated so you can sit down at any time and have a nice warm tushy. If you live in a cold climate, this might be just what you want. If you're like me, living where it's relatively warm most of the year, or you can't stand the idea of energy waste, there's an eco mode that will only heat it when you sit down. Even without eco mode, the user manual says it will decrease temperature settings when not in use. Now, let's say you've gotten all the settings just the way you like them. You got the right pressure, the right water temperature, the seat temperature, and even the nozzle position is just where you want it. It would be a big hassle to set this every time you need to use the facilities. Bemis includes a button on the remote to store settings for user 1 and user 2. You change the settings to meet your needs and then hold the appropriate user button for 3 seconds until it beeps. Now you can get your settings back with the push of a button. Now there's a couple of what I'd categorize maybe as cheat codes as well. You have 2 ways to start the oscillation feature. You can hit the wash button twice, as I mentioned earlier, or you can simultaneously press the stop and up button to toggle it on and off. I don't really know why they've got a separate cheat code for that, but I found it in the manual. Now, another cheat code is that you can press and hold the rear wash button on the remote to extend the nozzle without spraying for 2 minutes. This is designed to let you manually clean the nozzle with a soft cloth or toothbrush. You might not want to use your own toothbrush, though. Now, the BioBidet has a built-in nightlight that gives the toilet bowl a nice blue glow in the middle of the night. You'll need another cheat code to control it. Press the stop and turbo wash buttons for 3 seconds to toggle it on and off. A friend of mine's teenage daughter was visiting and happened to see our BioBidet. She told her mother that she really wanted one of these. When queried why, she said, because of the pretty blue nightlight in the bowl. I thought that was kind of funny. I see a typo here. The next sentence starts with you might, but might has the G and the T switched.
Okay.
Thank you. Save, thank you. You might be pretty sold on the features of the You might be pretty sold on the features of the BioBidet BB1200 with the remote control, but to make it truly smart, let's talk about how you can control it with an app for your phone. The Bemis Living app lets you use predefined presets and to create your own presets. I had to giggle at the built-in presets they've created. My favorites were Chili Recovery, Jane's Toasty Buns, and Krakatoa. They clearly had some fun setting these up. Now, it's pretty easy to create your own presets. You can change the seat, water, and dryer temperature, along with water pressure and nozzle position, and even toggle on oscillation. I like the app very much, but let's start at the beginning and talk about how to set it up before we get too excited about it. After you download and launch the Bemis Living app, you'll see a screen that says Bluetooth and a picture of someone sitting on a toilet. It tells you to sit with bare thighs on the seat and choose Add Device to connect over Bluetooth. After about 10 seconds, it'll ask to connect to your Wi-Fi network and ask for your Wi-Fi password. It explains that you connect to Wi-Fi to enable data monitoring. Data monitoring? What data monitoring? I'm pretty sure I don't want it to monitor what I do in there. Now, another thing it asked for was location access. I said no, but every time I opened the app, it nagged me again to allow location services. I looked in the App Store at the Bemis Living app, and I was comforted to see that only your contact info was linked to you and that location, diagnostics, and identifiers were collected, but never linked to you. So that helps. Now let's set aside these concerns for a moment. After you connect the bidet to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and have a jolly good time choosing, say, the Krakatoa preset, you're done with your business and you go away. Now, it's a few hours later and you make another visit. In order to get to your presets, you have to sit down and tap to connect to Bluetooth again. And you have to wait for it to find your Wi-Fi network again. You don't have to enter your Wi-Fi password or anything again, but this process takes a full 20 seconds every single time you open the app. I was wondering why it doesn't maintain the Bluetooth connection between visits, and I have an idea of why it doesn't. Have you ever tried to share a Bluetooth speaker between two people? It is a hot mess. I remember when Steve and I both had Bluetooth in our cars, in our Acuras, it was such a hot mess that we never let the other person connect to Bluetooth in their car. So my phone in his car was connected over USB and vice versa, because sharing Bluetooth, it was terrible. So maybe the BioBidet disconnects every time so that you and the other people in your home don't end up with Bluetooth collisions like that. All right, let's put all of this together about the Bemis Living app. It nags you for location services. It asks you for Wi-Fi for data monitoring, but doesn't say it uses it. It takes 20 seconds to connect every time you use it, but it does have funny preset names, and it does let you create your own presets for different situations. The bottom line is that I think the Bemis BioBidet BB1200 is a lovely product that is very reasonably priced for this category. I've seen them far more expensive than this with less functionality. Now, I'm not sure I can justify the possible privacy implications of the app versus the functionality, but the good news is that it comes with a swell remote for doing all of the same things. You can just imagine that the settings you change to are your version of Krakatoa. I have a confession to make. I wrote this article back in May and only then found out that the BB1200 was under embargo and not yet released. I was just given permission to release the article now. Now that's good though, because I can tell you that a full 4 months later, we're still very happy with the Bemis BioBidet BB1200, and we would definitely recommend it. We don't use the app because it just takes too long. The fun of the preset names is overcome by the ease and speed of using the remote control, which Steve mounted to the wall right beside the toilet, so it's always there for easy access. You can buy the Bemis BioBidet BB1200 from Bemis directly or through Amazon for the same price of $399. Be sure to read the information Bemis provide on which toilets fit which bidets before you buy. Oh, you talking about the flood, Steve?
No, I'm just talking about, Kevin was talking about automatic or remotely controlled cutoff valves for main lines that water companies could control. But that means it's powered. And I was just explaining the pressure. When I say pressure, Kevin, I don't mean water pressure. I mean the pressure to turn the valve. The valve's got resistance. And that pressure to rotate the valve is high. And that would take a lot of energy, a lot of power to turn that. I guess you could gear it down, way down, but still.
Yeah, you know firsthand that that's really hard to do, don't you?
Yeah, just did it today.
Do you want to send a picture?
Yeah. So, we had quite a day today. I got up at 3 a.m. to the sound of running water, and I finally isolated it to our front yard.
Frank says the Krakatoa settings took an extra 4 months for FDA approval. Torque would be a better word. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah, torque's
Hi,
the
Kurt.
word.
I didn't see you sneak in.
Pressure is, yeah. So this is what I had to deal with, and it was weird. You'd think that, that's just a sprinkler head. Well, no, sprinklers weren't running, and that's not where we have any sprinkler heads located. That is right above our main line. Main line goes to the curb to the right, under the sidewalk, and then to the houses to the left. And that thing blew at night. But it's fixed.
Hey, how come nobody noticed I didn't do bumpers?
Uh-oh. Can you add them after the fact? No, we did not put a bidet in our front yard, John.
Kind of looks like it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you just kind of squat over that thing.
Actually, that was funny. One of the toilets in bathrooms I went into in Africa had like 4 stalls, and 3 of the stalls had normal toilets, and one of them was a squat toilet. It was all just a hole in the ground with a place for your feet on either side.
Where was
that
this?
Was really in Africa. I never told you about it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to listen to this bumper here while you keep telling a story. Voice. at CES in January. There we go. And now let's go to this one.
So now we have to remember bumper music too.
Yeah, you do. You buy. Okay, here we go. All right, luckily I noticed right before this one. India too, huh? All right, are you done? Oh, you should show a picture of what the problem actually was.
Oh, then it's going to get into a discussion, but yes, I could.
Well, it's not like anybody's going to listen to me talking.
Yeah, I'll throw that in while you're talking.
Okay. So the next subject is this. Okay. What the heck happened? That was weird. Oh, I keep bumping. Actually, the cat was bumping earlier, was bumping my Stream Deck, but somehow... Oh, that's actually kind of cool. I forgot about that button. Something good happened that I forgot I had programmed my Stream Deck to be able to do. All right, here we go. Well, a few years ago, my friend Cheyenne, the elementary school teacher you've heard on the show a few times, told me that she uses a screen protector to make her iPad feel more like paper when she's writing on it with Apple Pencil. Ever since then, I've been tempted to buy one of those screen protectors with a rough surface. I've been procrastinating, though, for a couple of reasons. One of the things I've been worried about is that every screen protector I've ever applied ends up with a bubble under it, and I would lose my ever-loving mind if that happened on my iPad. I've also been worried about how easy it might be to take the screen protector off and reapply it. What if it left a sticky residue, or was it even possible to put it back on? What if it didn't simulate paper? It seemed unlikely that this solution would achieve the goal, even though Cheyenne assured me that it would. All of these factors gave me pause. I'm going to let you explain what that is, Steve. You can explain the pipe if you want, so you don't have to type it out.
Yeah, so that's about a 2-3 inch vertical pipe. It's threaded on top, missing its cap. We have presumed that it should have been capped, but you would never see that normally in a main line. Main lines they try to make as simple as possible, just a straight line all the way to your house in our case. So
the important point being there was no cap on that.
The cap was missing. That's how we found it, and that's where the water was squirting out of our lawn. It was down a few inches. By the way, it wasn't as deep as it should have been either. In any case, the plumber who was here speculated that what it may have been put there as part of a previous repair, where they had to maybe cut the main line. And we did have a sidewalk put in by the city came by and replaced our sidewalk because it was all cracked up. And they may have broken the main line, repaired it. It's hard to sweat solder back two water lines. Let's say you're putting a joint back together. If there's any water in the line, you got to, because the water just absorbs the heat and you can't get it past 100 degrees C. So you got to get the water out, but it's tough in a main line because there's really no place to drain it. So they may have put this in here as a way to drain the main line to do the sweat solder repair on that line. And then, that would have been capped. And
we don't know where the cap went, though.
The cap is missing. So luckily, I had one that fit. And and so the plumber just screwed that baby back on, put some pipe stuff on there, and so
crazy.
It's fixed. It's about I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a huge job.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back.
I'm going to go back to recording. Final concern was the beautiful, crisp look of photos and videos on my glossy screen iPad would be diminished because of the screen protector. Any screen protector would do this to some extent, but something designed to have a rough surface was bound to change the look, possibly significantly. That's a reason No, not that's a reason. I know some people like matte finish screens. I'm looking at you, George from Tulsa, but I never buy them because I don't like that look. I like the crisp blacks and just don't like that fuzzy look. It also seemed to be a fairly frivolous thing to buy one of these. I clearly didn't need it, but I was still tempted to try one. This conversation's been going on in my head for around 3 years now. While we were at MacStock in Chicago, while Jeff Gamet was doing a presentation, he happened to mention that he uses a screen protector on his iPad. Jeff draws these delightful little pencil sketches to entertain his online followers and entertain himself, and these little sketches are a fun part of his presentations. The screen protector he uses is called Rock Paper Pencil by the folks at Astropad. He said that this matte iPad screen protector made his iPad feel much more like paper. After he finished his talk on stage, I went up and grilled him with all of my concerns. He told me that this screen cover can be removed and put back on when you need it, which immediately made it more interesting to me. He went on to explain that it comes with ballpoint pen tips that replace the normal tips on Apple Pencil. I wasn't sure how much of a difference that would make, but it sure sounded like fun. Rock Paper Pencil is $40, which is significantly more than the cheap ones you can find in most places. But it had the Jeff Gamet seal of approval, so I moved from mild curiosity to real interest in the idea. But you know what? It was still a frivolous purchase. I didn't need it. Well, every year my mother and father-in-law give me a gift card to Amazon for my birthday. I never want to just apply the gift card to my account balance because I'd inevitably waste it on something like bug spray or drain cleaner. Instead, I keep the gift card on my desk and I wait until something special comes along that I want to buy for myself. My criteria are that it must be something I want, but don't need, and if it's frivolous, all the better. I've been waiting since April for that perfect gift for myself. You can see where this is going, right? In addition to Rock Paper Pencil being available at astropad.com, it's also available at Amazon, so I bought it with my birthday gift card. Rock Paper Pencil is very carefully packaged. The screen protector is in a static sleeve, then that's inside a hard plastic sleeve, and then that is in turn inside a thick cardboard folded piece. Embedded in that cardboard part are the 2 ballpoint pencil tips that Jeff mentioned. For such elaborate packaging, the instructions are surprisingly sparse. They tell you to clean the screen first, and then Apple says to use 75% ethyl alcohol for cleaning. I didn't use ethyl alcohol of any percentage because I learned a long time ago you can simply use a microfiber cloth that is slightly damp with water to clean your screen. I keep my screen fairly clean anyway, and I'm blessed with super dry, non-greasy fingers, but I made sure there weren't any marks on it before going to the next step. Application of the screen protector is extremely simple. You simply set it down on the surface of the iPad and run your finger around the edge. They call it nano cling application. It uses static electricity to connect, and they say it's stronger than magnets, non-adhesive, and leaves no residue when removed. I took it on and off a few times, and they're not lying. You just peel it up to remove and set it back on to reapply. I did have to kind of get my fingernail under the corner up by the notch in the screen protector to pull it off, but it wasn't difficult. Remember, one of my big worries was that the screen protector would end up with bubbles underneath it. That fear was not realized, as this screen protector is a stiff piece of plastic, and it isn't sticky, so there's no bubbles to be had. Now, Apple Pencil tips screw on and off easily, so I unscrewed my regular tip and screwed on one of the ballpoint tips. Now, be sure to tighten that tip firmly. I say that because a few days after I got my Rock Paper Pencil, I noticed my pencil wasn't working on my iPad, and only then did I notice the tip was gone. Luckily, I was able to retrace my steps to earlier in the day, and I found the tip. It never happened again, but after that experience, I take special care to ensure I've tightened that tip really well. Now, let's talk about how it feels. As soon as I had my new ballpoint tip and screen protector applied, I opened up Notability, which is the app I use mostly with the pencil. Which is the app I opened up Notability because that's the app I use the pencil with a lot. I chose a nice slate blue background and lined paper as my template, and I set the pen to white. I don't know why, but writing with light colors on darker backgrounds is really pleasing. It's like the ultimate gel pen. Now, I have to say, the Rock Paper Pencil ballpoint tip on this screen protector feels really nice. It's not quite paper, but it's ever so much closer to it than the normal Apple Pencil tip without the screen protector. I wouldn't say it feels like paper and pencil, but it's really pleasing and you don't feel like your pencil tip is slipping. I tested going back to the normal pencil tip with rock, paper, pencil and the screen protector, and it felt like I had no screen protector at all. That kind of surprised me. I thought it'd feel maybe halfway in between. My theory is that the ballpoint tip must sort of vibrate on the texture of the screen protector, and that's what makes it feel like paper. I enjoy writing with rock, paper, pencil on my iPad so much that I hand wrote my thank you note to my in-laws with it, using Notability, of course. I love writing thank you notes and other letters this way because it feels handwritten to the recipient, which technically it is, but I have the advantage of being able to erase and rewrite when I make mistakes. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of trouble writing by hand these days because my hand is basically out of shape. Now, before I print, I make sure to turn off the horizontal lines. My recipients will never know that if I didn't have the lines as guides, I write more like a psychopath, with my words kind of sliding down the page. The one problem rock, paper, pencil doesn't solve is, like I said, my hand is completely atrophied for handwriting. I had to take frequent breaks during a 2-page thank you note because my hand kept cramping up. Now, let's talk about how it looks. One of my fears of using a textured screen protector was that the screen wouldn't show crisp colors. Well, that fear was 100% justified. Rock, paper, pencil definitely makes blacks look gray because of the reflections on the texture. Looking straight on, when it's got a lot of color and black on it, I don't notice it as much. But from any angle, it looks really washed out. In addition, any reflected light kind of spreads out to cover a greater portion of the screen. When I got back from our trip to Africa, where I brought the iPad with me, and I watched a video podcast for the first time in a long time, it looked dreadful. Our trip to Africa was an extremely dusty adventure, and I wondered whether maybe rock, paper, pencil had embedded dust in it. I washed it off with water and dried it, and while it's still obvious I've got a matte screen, it looked a lot better than it did full of dust. In addition to the blacks being gray, the other thing that surprised me is that a white background gets a lot of color noise. Every bit of white light is hitting the texture and reflecting and refracting off it like through a prism, bringing out all the colors in the light. I mentioned this to Jeff Gamet, and he said he doesn't notice it. He speculated that his astigmatism is bad enough that he doesn't notice things like that. Unfortunately for me in this case, I have spectacular vision because of my human-made lenses from cataract surgery, so I see everything. Now, having this textured surface on the iPad reduces fingerprints quite a bit. As I mentioned, my fingers are dry and don't leave much of a mark, but I can still tell that it's much better with rock, paper, pencil installed. It's also much easier to wipe off an errant mark. Now, I have cats, and cat hair seems to love the iPad screen, but with rock, paper, pencil, the cat hair, while it'll land on it, it never sticks. I can blow on my screen and it just flies off, which doesn't happen with the static electricity of the original screen. I think that's what helps the screen protector to kind of repel the cat hair. Now, let's talk bottom line. I had a lot of trouble writing this. I've had this article waiting to finish for a long time because I wasn't sure what my bottom line was on the product. Whether you would like it or not is highly dependent on what you do with your iPad. On the one hand, rock, paper, pencil with the ballpoint tips is a significant improvement in the way it feels to draw with the Apple Pencil on iPad. I use my pencil quite often, but mostly for things like marking off my progress and cross-stitch patterns. If you use your pencil often, I think this is a great solution. When I'm doing a lot of programming, I do like to write by hand to try to just do kind of pseudocode, and it helps me to think writing with pencil. So during those times, I think it is a great solution. But if your primary use is to watch video content or view and edit photos, I don't think you'll like having rock, paper, pencil on your screen. It washes out the colors too much. If you use your iPad primarily to read content that has a white background and black text, and you have really good vision, the color noise might bother you. If you hate highly reflective screens, like George from Tulsa, then having a matte screen might delight you and not be a downside. If you're flexible enough to be fine with removing and adding rock, paper, pencil to your iPad depending on your current task, then it's probably a fabulous solution. What I can say is that I kept it on my iPad for a long time, but I don't have it on currently. So I'm still of two minds of whether rock, paper, pencil is the best solution for me. Alrighty.
So John asked a good question. If you had that pencil tip on the rock, paper, pencil, whatever, pencil tip on your pencil and you used it on the screen without the protector, could that damage it?
I suppose it could. I did use it for a couple of days like that, just kind of gently, but I think it'd be a better idea to take it off.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can show you. The screen is not clean right now. It's got a couple of little spots on it.
I'm going to go full screen on you.
All right. Tell me if you can see the screen. Let me see how am I positioned here. Not great. Let's see. Move this way a little bit. There we go. All right. Are you ready? This is what you do. You lay it down there. And I'm not going to get it lined up just right because I'm doing this at an angle, but you just kind of set it down and oops. Yeah, I didn't get it on straight, but that's it. It's on. So I can take it off and I can put it back on. It is hard to do it with one hand. Let me set it on correctly where you're not watching. Let me just set it on here and you kind of press the edges. It's so precise that you got to kind of touch it, but actually, right now, it's going to show you a lot of you should see the reflections. You see how, it's kind of gray, right? And if I wake up the screen, well, let me bring the brightness down so you can actually see anything. So you see that's kind of muted. Let's see if I can take it off. Let me get the pencil out of the way. Can I do it upside down? I got to go into this notch here. See right
that's interesting. We can see the camera flashing.
What do you mean?
The light from your FaceTime camera is flashing. It's trying
Why is it flashing?
I assume you don't see it. It's just that.
No, I can see it. I can see it in the video, but no, I can't.
No, but
see
you can't see it.
But
probably the
why
camera
is it on at
picking
all?
it up.
Oh, you know what it's trying to do? It's trying to do Face ID.
Right.
That's what you're seeing.
Right.
Because it's looking
so the
at
camera
my face.
Can see infrared. That's probably infrared, I'm guessing. Or it's not a visible light.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, because as soon as the screen goes dark, it stops. But now, look at the difference when I wake it up.
Move it so we can see that camera. Yeah, it's still going.
Okay, now it's trying to get me to enter my passcode, so I can't get out of that.
You're locked out.
Yeah, cancel. There we go. Anyway. All right, you get the idea. But it's real easy to take on and off, so that's the only tricky part. Yeah, that was kind of cool seeing that go. All right. All right. Where are we in the agenda?
Bows versus beats.
Good. All right. Oh, nope. Support the shows first.
Oh, okay.
No bumper for support the show. Does anybody have a GIF or anything for the bumpers? Maybe a little kid bowling?
We could
bumpers?
Probably should, do a play off the word bumper. Little baby buggy
Little
bumpers.
baby buggy bumpers. All right, here we go. That's good, Jill. Makeagif.com. Wow. Let me see what gotta see what the GIF does. I don't know about that one. I often tell you about how you can support the show by going to Patreon and pledging a dollar amount that's right for you. But I don't always mention that you can pledge in whatever currency has meaning to you. This week, our hero is Louis from Canada, who chose to make his pledge in CAD, otherwise known as Canadian dollars. You too can be a hero like Louis by going to podfeed.com/Patreon and pledging your support in your favorite currency. Sorry, Kaylee, I don't think they support Hooniackers just yet.
Someday.
That's good.
Someday we'll get Hooniackers.
She always says Hooniackers for whatever currency it is you're talking about.
Yeah, it's defined as the local currency wherever you are. Hooniackers. Yeah. It's an adaptive currency.
Oh, I got to do a bumper. Baby bumpers. And where did we decide the bumpers go?
What do you, well,
I mean the chapter mark.
It goes. Yeah, where did we do?
I think it goes after. It goes where I start talking about the next
I don't think people want to hear the bumper if they go straight to a piece.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to have plenty of content, Steve. I don't know what you were worried about. All right. Bose. I didn't use your title, and I really should have. You had a much better title for this episode. Beats Beats Bose?
Mm-hmm.
No, Bose Beats Beats.
Bose Beats Beats, right.
When we met up with Kaylee at MacStock this year, I was reminded of how great it is that she figures out how to use technology that others may feel is too out of date to consider. A lot of times she prefers the older technology. Oh, actually, I already had that in there. Let me back up a little bit. What's going on? No. How did that solo thing get? That solo is bad. If you ever see this, that's also really bad. Solo means all other tracks are muted. That's as bad as seeing an M, maybe worse. When we met up with Kaylee at MacStock this year, I was reminded of how great it is that she figures out how to use technology that others may feel is too out of date to even consider. In fact, I think she has a preference for older tech. She very proudly showed off her mini disc player and explained what a good deal she got on it and how well it works. In that vein, I'm going to tell you about a tech gadget that Steve and I both swear by, and it's not at all new. I'll even admit that Steve was the one who rediscovered this solution to a long-term problem. Steve and I both use the $200 Beats Fit Pro wireless earbuds with active noise cancellation. We use them while exercising and while doing yard or housework. They're great for listening to podcasts and are especially good at canceling out noise on my long walks from passing cars. In case you're wondering, I'm very careful watching for cars and rogue bicyclists who don't make any noise. The battery lasts for a crazy length of time, and the case recharges them. This is all old news. So what's the problem to be solved now? You may have noticed that Steve and I travel a fair bit, and a lot of our travel is on airplanes. The Beats Fit Pro headphones, while great at taking out the normal noise of life, they don't do a very good job of canceling the sound of jet engines. We carry our MacBooks and my iPad on trips so we can watch movies, but with the Beats, it's really hard to hear the movies over the sounds of those engines, even with noise cancellation enabled and the volume cranked all the way up. Well, around a decade ago, Steve and I both bought Bose Quiet Comfort QC20 wired earbuds. Steve decided to test them on a recent flight, and he discovered that they're still amazing at removing jet engine noise. He convinced me to bring mine for our flights to and within Africa. We had 4 11-hour flights, so this was a critical piece of tech. Turned out they were a glorious improvement over the Beats Fit Pros for noise cancellation. As I mentioned, the Bose QC20s are wired, but they're so old they connect to a headphone jack. We originally used them as is with our headphone jack-bearing iPhones, but when Apple got courage and removed the headphone jack, we bought the headphone jack to Lightning adapter. More recently, when Apple got even more courage and switched the iPhones to USB-C, we needed yet another new adapter. I know it's extravagant, but we popped the $9 to buy the Apple USB-C to headphone jack adapter. The QC20 earbuds have very flexible rubber ear tips with a little flange thingy that keeps them locked into your ear. We both find this is a better solution to keep earbuds in your ear than the method the AirPods Pro use, where you have to shove the little suction ear tip into your ear canal. Those never worked for Steve at all, and I found I had to fiddle with them quite a bit to get them to stay in, especially when jogging. That's one of the reasons we like the Beats Fit Pro over any AirPod model. Steve, that sentence starts with "that's" and it's not a capital T.
Which I haven't been following. Which sentence are you on?
Right after where you got that picture, the paragraph that's sort of around it, the very last sentence in that paragraph. That's one of the reasons we like the Beats Fit Pro over any AirPod model.
Oh, should be capitalized?
Yeah, the capital T.
Got
Thank you,
it.
dear. Save. The sidewalk accident. Yeah, that was, I didn't hit anything. I just tripped over an imaginary air molecule there. On the QC20s, the wires from the earbuds join at a set of controls, including a play-pause button and volume up-down buttons. If you continue to follow the wire down to right before it connects to your device, there's a small controller box. It's about the size of a stick of gum. On the controller, there's an on-off switch for the noise cancellation. This gumstick-sized controller box also contains the battery and processor for noise cancellation, and it charges via micro USB. I have no idea how long the battery lasts because I've never tested it. I can't say I don't even worry about charging it so it must be pretty long. I hadn't charged my Bose headphones in ages before a big trip, and yet they lasted through 3 of the 11-hour flights on our trip, but they did have to be charged during the 4th one. The QC20s come with a small, padded, zippered pouch that just fits the earbuds with the attached controller and even has an internal side pocket that can hold a short charging cable. Since the QC20s came out in, 1958? All right, maybe not that old. The included cable is micro USB-C. Wait. That should say micro USB to USB-A. Do you see that, Steve?
Do you want me to change that?
Yeah, it says micro USB-C.
That's a new standard.
The included cable is... Yeah. The included cable is micro USB to USB-A, so that means I have yet another dongle converting that to USB-C. Back when we bought the Bose QC20s a decade ago, they were very expensive at $300. But they've lasted all this time, and they're still the best headphones we have to take out airplane noise and make it possible to hear our movies on the plane. Now, this review would be super mean if you could no longer buy the QC20s, and technically, you can't buy them new. However, right now, you can get them used for $165 US in the Bose store on Amazon. If you look around, people are selling them on eBay, brand new in box, for closer to $120. I have to say, I sure enjoyed channeling my inner Kaylee to tell you that new tech is not always better tech. I think we're going to end up with a show that's 40 minutes long.
That's not bad.
That's the goal. Just barely, though. I'm going to have to slow down.
What does a yellow light mean?
Does anybody know what that's from? Oh, did anybody answer the question about live and direct?
I don't think so.
Tell them what that's from.
Max Headroom.
Max Headroom. A show that does not hold up. It was very funny in its time.
Oh, yeah. The yellow light is Taxi. Correct.
Yeah. Kevin's right on Taxi. One of the funniest scenes on television in the history of time, I think.
Well, and then there's WKRP.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Oh, my gosh. That's good stuff. Good stuff right there. There's Max Headroom. There he is. Let's see. I got to do the GIF.
The stuttering delightfulness of Max.
Max Headroom. All right. Here we go. Ooh, 5:58. Hurry up. No, don't go fast. I've been a SetApp subscriber for many years, and I found a fair number of apps through the service. But to be honest, I haven't really taken full advantage of it. The main problem was when I started living the 2-Mac lifestyle with a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro, that kind of caused a price increase for me. One of the advantages of SetApp is that now they have a way for you to get your apps on your iOS devices as well as macOS. You do have to buy a higher tier subscription from SetApp to get the iOS apps, though. I have a strong preference for apps I can use on all of my devices, so if I really liked an app that was cross-platform, instead of just getting it through SetApp, I'd buy it directly from the developer so I could get it on iOS as well. I also have conflicted feelings about using SetApp instead of going to the developers. I like to support developers, and I know they get less money from me if I use SetApp. The smart thing to do would have been to just drop my SetApp subscription and go on my merry way. Instead, I kept paying for SetApp, but only using very few applications through it and buying the same applications outside of SetApp. It's not quite what I meant to say. But only using very few applications through it, because the applications I liked a lot, I would go buy them separately. So I was kind of paying for everything twice. Now, Setup has affiliate codes, and even though I didn't use the service much myself, I went ahead and got one just in case I mentioned the rare app here and there that you could get through Setup. Even if I paid for it directly, you could get it through Setup, and I thought I could get a little bit of financial lift. Well, after years of this silly method of lighting dollar bills on fire, I was chatting with my good friend David Roth, and he was telling me about this terrific app that's changed his work life called NotePlan from noteplan.co. I won't go into the details of the app and how he uses it because he did a far better job of explaining it on Mac Power Users number 756, and of course there's a link in the show notes, and he did a much better job of explaining it than I could ever possibly do. It's an all-in-one app that gives you a digital bullet journal, a task manager, it's a personal knowledge management tool, all in one app. Now, you know I love to try a new app and see if it solves any problems I have, so I took a look at the app. There's a free 7-day trial, and it runs on Mac, iPad, iPhone, and the web. But the pricing was a bit steep. If paid annually, it's $8.33 a month. I'm not suggesting it's not worth what they're charging. It's just that at this point, I didn't even know if I needed NotePlan. And that's when David told me that it was available through Setup. Well, that's great. Well, to really get good use out of it, I'd need it on my iPad and iPhone, and my plan with Setup didn't cover iOS devices. As is often the case, I hadn't paid attention to the pricing model at Setup as it evolved over the years. The pricing plan I was on was $10 a month for 2 Macs, and they don't even offer that plan anymore. It's $10 a month for only 1 Mac. But for only $2.50 more, you can get that 1 Mac and up to 4 iOS devices. It's not quite what I need, but it might be perfect for you. Well, the plan David urged me to look at is their Power User plan. It's $15 a month for 4 Macs and 4 iOS devices. I know that's 50% more than I was paying, but this plan would let Steve have access to all of the apps in Setup as well. And if I actually use the apps through Setup, I won't keep buying all these apps on the outside and costing myself even more money. Now, talking about Steve, traditionally in our family, I'm the one who's constantly experimenting with new software. But if I find something that I think might help Steve, we'll buy it for him. Just off the top of my head, I know we both bought Bartender and CleanShot X, even though they're available through Setup. Now, when David justifies the cost of Setup, since NotePlan would cost him $8 a month all by itself, he's getting all of the other apps he might want from Setup for only $7 a month. It's an interesting way to look at it. Look at something that's critical to you, subtract that from the cost because you would have bought that anyway, and see what's left. Now, it seemed that armed with this new information, I should do one of two things. I should stop lighting $10 a month on fire by paying for Setup at all and not using it, or I should go all in and go for the power user problem. Problem? Subscription. Can you do a search for the word problem and change it to subscription? Or
Okay.
plan. Plan, that's what it should have been.
Plan.
Or I Or I should go all in and go for the Power User plan. At David's urging, I upped my subscription to 4 Macs and 4 iOS devices. Shortly after I did this, Steve got an upgrade notice for CleanShot X, his preferred screenshot and annotation tool. Now, we'd bought him a full license at $29, but that only gets you a year of updates. The other option was to go to a subscription price of $8 per month for CleanShot X. Well, instead of doing that, I deleted his version of CleanShot X, I installed Setup on his Mac, and I installed CleanShot X from the Setup interface. The Power User version of Setup was already half paid off because of just this one app. Now, if you haven't used Setup yourself, there's one tricky bit to finding your apps. In your Applications folder, you'll find the Setup app itself, but also a folder called Setup, and that contains all of the apps you've installed via the Setup interface. It's not hard to understand, but it's a little bit weird. I explained it to Steve and showed it to him, and he grokked it immediately, and the change was made. Now, one of my first curiosities was to understand exactly how Setup lets you install iOS apps. In the US, there isn't support for third-party app stores, so how can this possibly work? I abandoned Ulysses 2 years ago in favor of Bear, but I've remained curious about how Ulysses may have evolved to see if it's gotten any better and might be a better choice for me. I downloaded Ulysses to my Mac, and then I went to figure out how to do it on the iPad. When you have an apps page open in Setup on the Mac, and there's an iOS app available, you'll see two tabs. One says Install, which will install it on the Mac, and the second tab says Get iOS App. This second option pops up a window explaining the two-step process to install on iOS. Step 1 is to scan a QR code with your iOS device. All this does is open the App Store on your iOS device to the app in question where you can download and install it. This step installs the non-paid-for version of the app, just like if you were doing it without SetApp. Now, step 2 on the pop-up window says Unlock Full Version. That gives you a second QR code to scan. This QR code says Open in Ulysses, which then activates the full version of the app. The first time you do it, it can take a few minutes, and they send you a notification once it's activated. Overall, the process is unusual, and it is a bit of extra work compared to buying through the App Store, but it's not actually hard. I wanted to tell you about my decision and why you'll probably hear me say even more available in SetApp when I tell you about an app I think is nifty. Don't worry though, I'll always link to the original developer's website, of course, because I know this might not be for everyone. Now, while this is definitely not an ad for SetApp, it would not break my heart if you used my affiliate code to setapp.com, link in the show notes, if you think you might want to use the service. If you become a paid subscriber after using that link, you and I both get a free month added to our subscription. I put the link in this article, but it's also always in the show notes of every episode of the NosillaCast as found in your podcatcher of choice. You know I'll be going out of my way to find cool apps through SetApp for my Macs, Steve's Macs, and all of our iOS devices from now on. It just occurred to me something. I wonder if publishing that QR code would give someone free access.
I was thinking the same thing. So I was just scanning the QR code. The first one just takes you to the App Store.
Right.
The second
but
one,
if you install it and then do it.
Yeah.
I don't know that it counts if you do it because you're actually on the account, but let me blur it just in case.
First thing I'm going to do is delete these from the...
What?
I'm going to delete... No, they're in the thread. They're in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to delete them from there.
Sorry.
Not that this is also on YouTube, so...
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And I just made a note to blur it, and I'll upload a new thing.
Yeah.
All right. Look at that. 43 minutes. Good. All right. Here we go. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeed.com anytime you like? A lot of people do it, and we have a lot of fun. If you have a question or a suggestion, send it on over. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. You can follow me on Mastodon. Where? podfeed.com/Mastodon. What if you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube? You can go to podfeed.com/YouTube. If you want to join in the conversation, you can join our Slack community. Where do you think that would be? podfeed.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all of the other lovely Nosilla castaways. You can support the show at podfeed.com/Patreon, like Lewis did, with the currency of your choice, or you can do a one-time donation at podfeed.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Yeah, I saw no usable data found too when I first tried it. So I don't know that that's... Not sure. Did you download the app first before you did the second QR code, Sandy? Because you have to download the app first for it to know what to do.
Maybe that it doesn't work unless you do that.
Yes. You didn't get to the second one?
Oh, the first one worked for me. It took me to the App Store to download it.
And stay subscribed. That's weird. Okay, do me a chapter count, Steve.
6.
6. I have 6. Export. Well, it would be good to know if it doesn't work. How come the first one didn't work? Try it again. Is anybody trying it?
I'm trying it. No, okay. It's first one takes me to the App Store. Second one, no.
So did you install from the App Store?
No, I haven't installed.
Yeah, install it. Oh, you've been wanting to do the setup iOS subscription? Good. Hey, I don't know whether using my affiliate subscription or link to upgrade would help, but it's worth a shot. You could get a free month.
I did put the link in there.
Good, thank you.
Up above. All right, so it's installing.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't hear back from Sandy. Could get the first one.
Attempt to open it first.
No, just download it.
Okay.
Then go back to the second QR code.
Okay.
And scan it.
Open Ulysses.
Really?
Activating. Oh, wait.
Okay.
We have a little problem. Scanning QR code failed. Please go to the Set app on your Mac and scan the QR code again.
Oh, good.
So good.
Wait.
So
okay, good. So means I don't have to do any work.
Right. And how does it know, though, that was an invalid entry?
Maybe their time, once it gets activated, it's
blocks later activations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's 10, almost 11
It
minutes
is 10
later.
after. Time to go.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for hanging in there with us, everyone. Bye-bye.